Imagine holding a handful of fine sand between your fingers. The desire to keep it is so intense that you clench your fist with all the strength you possess. But the harder you squeeze, the more the grains escape through the gaps in your hand, trickling back to the ground until absolutely nothing remains but emptiness. This image is not just a physical metaphor. It is the visual representation of one of the greatest traps of the human mind, a phenomenon that haunted emperors, destroyed lineages of conquerors, and continues to paralyze millions in the modern world. There is an invisible, almost magnetic force that seems to push our goals toward the horizon every time we try to run toward them with desperation. It is the paradoxical law of reverse effort, a dynamic where brute will becomes the greatest obstacle to achievement. What separates those who manifest their destinies from those who die on the shore is not the intensity of their desire, but the understanding that, on the chessboard of existence, excess pressure breaks the peace. To understand why your desire seems to be fleeing from you, we must dive into the depths of psychology and ancestral wisdom, uncovering why frantic pursuit is, in truth, a cry of scarcity that the universe always answers with more absence. Before we unravel the secrets of this invisible mechanics governing success and failure, I invite you to become part of this journey of knowledge by subscribing to the channel, so that the next lessons of history and the human mind reach you without resistance. The journey of the hero or the conqueror has always been painted with the colors of sweat and extreme sacrifice, but the hidden history of great civilizations reveals something much more subtle. Think of the architects of the pyramids, or the navigators who crossed unknown oceans guided only by the stars. There was desire in them, certainly, but it was not the desire of the desperate. When you desire something with an intensity that borders on anguish, you are sending a powerful message to your own subconscious and to the world around you. The message that you do not have it. The focus is not on the goal, but on the lack of it. This frequency of lack acts as a natural repellent. In the Roman Empire, generals who sought glory at any cost, driven by the paranoia of self-glorification, often made fatal tactical errors because their vision was clouded by the need for validation, while those who acted with the calm of one who already felt victorious dominated territories with surgical precision. Obsessive desire creates a state of internal tension that blocks the flow of creativity and intuition. You become an archer whose hand trembles because he wants to hit the target so badly. The tremble is the desire, and it is what diverts the arrow. Nature does not struggle to bloom. It simply blooms. A river does not fight to reach the sea. It flows along the path of least resistance. When we apply the brute force of will against the gears of life, we generate friction. This friction manifests as anxiety, fear of failure, and a constant vigilance that drains our vital energy. Imagine a monarch of antiquity who desperately craved immortality. He surrounded himself with alchemists, drank toxic elixirs, and lived in constant dread of death. The more he tried to extend his life through fear, the faster his health withered and his mind lost itself in madness. He was so focused on not dying that he forgot to live, and death, sensing the invitation made by fear, arrived early. What you seek with desperation carries within it the seed of the fear of not achieving it. And fear is a creative force as powerful as love, yet directed toward destruction. When you say, "I need this so much," your mind understands that the current state is unbearable, and the universe merely reflects that unbreakability back to you. It is necessary to understand the difference between intention and attachment. Intention is the captain who defines the ship's route. Attachment is the sailor who panics when a wave rises. Entire civilizations collapsed because their leaders could not detach from a rigid vision of power, trying to force reality to mold to their whims. The tragedy of unbridled ambition is that it blinds the individual to the opportunities emerging on the periphery of vision. When you are obsessed with a single path, you ignore the bridges being built beside you. The vacuum created by your obsession sucks the joy out of the process, turning your goal into a heavy obligation, a burden you carry on your back instead of a destination pulling you forward. The paradox lies in the fact that things usually come to us the moment we stop demanding they arrive now. It is the phenomenon of finding the lost key only when you give up looking for it and sit down to rest. Modern science, through neuroscience, explains that the state of anxious hyperfocus activates the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for the fight or flight response. In this state, your prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic and complex problem solving, is partially deactivated. In other words, the more desperately you want something, the less capable you become of architecting the plan that would take you there. You become a hostage to your primitive emotions. In the courts of the Renaissance, masters of diplomacy knew that showing mead was the fastest way to lose a negotiation. He who shows he is willing to walk away from a table is the one who holds the real power. The same applies to life. When you signal that your happiness does not depend exclusively on achieving that goal, you remove the pressure and allow things to organize organically. You move from a state of pursuit to a state of attraction. History is a graveyard of men and women who were consumed by their own desires. Kings who wanted the love of their subjects and ended up as tyrants. Artists who sought perfection and died without finishing a single work. Merchants who sought infinite wealth and ended up in the deepest spiritual misery. They all had one thing in common: the inability to let go. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means trusting. It is the difference between the swimmer who fights the current until he drowns and the swimmer who flips onto his back and lets the flow take him to the shore. There is an intelligence in chaos, a rhythm in the timing of things that cannot be accelerated by the snapping whips of our anxiety. Time is a patient master, and it frequently tests our readiness through waiting. If desire consumes you, you are not ready for what you desire, for the conquest would only amplify the instability that already exists within you. Observe the great constructions of antiquity, such as the Gothic cathedrals that took centuries to build. The master builders who began the foundations knew they would never see the finished roof. There was a desire for creation, but there was no anxiety for immediate possession. They worked in harmony with time, with stone, and with gravity. This serenity allowed their works to defy the millennia. Today, we live in the era of immediacy, where a 1-second delay is seen as a personal affront. This constant hurry is what keeps our dreams at a safe distance. We are running on a treadmill, spending monumental energy to stay in exactly the same place, because the movement we make is based on escaping our current reality rather than building a new one. To break this cycle, one must adopt the posture of the silent observer. Look at your desire not as a lack that needs to be filled, but as a seed that already contains the entire tree, requiring only the right soil and time. When you feel at peace with the not yet, the now is transformed. Tension disappears, shoulders relax, and the mind clears. It is in this space of serenity that meaningful coincidences, what Jung called synchronicity, begin to occur. Doors that were locked open on their own. The right people appear at unlikely corners, and the path reveals itself beneath your feet with every step. The world is not conquered by force, but by resonance. You receive what you are, not what you want. If you are lack, you will receive more lack. If you are fulfillment, life will overflow conquests upon you. Reflect on your own journey and realize how many times the best things in your life arrived when you were distracted, being happy with what you already had. The final irony of the human condition is that freedom only comes when we give up trying to control the uncontrollable. By releasing the reins of destiny with trust, you discover that the horse knows the way home much better than you do. The secret is not in wanting less, but in wanting better, with a light heart and a mind focused on present action rather than future results. The fall of great civilizations always began with the hubris of believing that man could bend the will of time. Do not make the same mistake in your personal life. Accept the rhythm of the seasons and understand that the winter of desire is necessary for the spring of achievement to bloom with deep roots. As we look at the ruins of the past and the mirrors of the present, we realize that the greatest conquest is not the object of our desire, but mastery over ourselves. The ability to desire without being enslaved, to seek without getting lost, and to act without despairing. This is the true power that spans the centuries. If you seek to understand the hidden laws that govern existence and want to continue exploring the depths of history and the human mind, subscribe and join us in this quest for the wisdom that sets us free. For in the end, what we seek is not on the horizon, but in the quality of our walk. May you learn the art of letting go, so that everything that is rightfully yours can finally find you. It would be a pleasure to continue this conversation with you. How about we explore what caused the collapse of other great minds in our next video?